I stood in the doorway of that fancy event hall, holding a gift bag with a silver ribbon, watching my daughter-in-law Vanessa laugh with her friends. The balloons were pink and gold. The cake had 3 tiers. Everything looked perfect on the surface. But something in my chest tightened like a fist. I'm Gloria Bennett. I'm 52 years old. I've been a nurse for 28 years. I've raised 3 children on my own after my husband Marcus died when our youngest was only 6. I know how to read people. I know how to spot a lie. I know when something doesn't add up. And nothing about this baby shower was adding up. My son Derek had called me 3 weeks ago, his voice tight with excitement. Mama, Vanessa's pregnant. We're having a baby. I should have been overjoyed. I should have screamed with happiness. But instead, I felt something cold slide down my spine. How far along is she? I asked, keeping my voice steady. 4 months, he said. We wanted to wait until we were sure everything was okay before telling anyone. 4 months. I did the math in my head. 4 months ago, Derek had been in Atlanta for 2 months on a work assignment. He'd called me almost every night, complaining about how much he missed Vanessa, how hard it was to be away from her. I didn't say anything to him then. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself that married couples have their ways, that maybe he'd flown home for a weekend I didn't know about. But now, standing in this event hall, watching Vanessa place her hand on her very round belly, I couldn't shake the feeling anymore. The room was packed with women I didn't recognize. Vanessa's friends from her marketing job, her sorority sisters, her cousins from Oakland. They all wore matching pink sashes that said Team Baby Girl in glitter letters. I recognized Vanessa's mother Linda across the room, standing near the gift table with a champagne flute in her hand. She saw me and gave a tight smile before looking away. That was strange. Linda and I had always gotten along fine. We weren't best friends, but we were cordial. We'd had Thanksgiving dinner together last year. We'd gone shopping for Derek and Vanessa's anniversary gift together. But now she was avoiding my eyes like I had done something wrong. I made my way through the crowd, saying hello to people I half knew, accepting hugs from Vanessa's Aunt Sharon, who always smelled like coconut oil and expensive perfume. Gloria, honey, doesn't Vanessa look absolutely radiant? Sharon said, squeezing my arm. That pregnancy glow is real, baby, real. I nodded and smiled, but my eyes were on Vanessa. She did look radiant. Her skin was clear and glowing. Her hair was done in long braids that fell past her shoulders. She wore a white dress that hugged her belly, showing off her bump. She looked like she stepped out of a magazine. But something about her smile seemed forced. Every time someone mentioned Derek, her smile would falter for just a second before she caught herself. Gloria, Vanessa called out when she finally saw me. She waved me over with genuine warmth, or at least what looked like genuine warmth. I walked over to her, gift bag in hand, and she pulled me into a hug. She smelled like vanilla and cocoa butter. Thank you so much for coming, she said softly in my ear. It means the world to me. I pulled back and looked at her, really looked at her. Of course, baby. I wouldn't miss this for the world. Where's Derek? Her smile froze. Just for a second. Just long enough for me to notice. Oh, he had to work today. You know how it is. Big project deadline coming up. I knew for a fact that Derek had taken the day off. He'd told me so himself 2 days ago on the phone. He'd said he was excited to be at the baby shower, to celebrate with Vanessa and all her friends. So why was she lying? I placed my gift on the table with all the others. Boxes wrapped in pink paper, bags stuffed with tissue paper, a mountain of presents for a baby that might not even be my son's. The thought made my stomach turn. I found a seat near the back of the room, away from the main action, and watched. I've learned over the years that if you want to know the truth about something, you don't ask questions. You watch. You observe. You pay attention to the little things people do when they think no one's looking. And right now, I was paying very close attention. The game started. First was the baby food tasting game, where blindfolded women had to guess what flavor of baby food they were eating. Everyone laughed when Vanessa's friend Monica gagged on the pea puree. Then came the diaper-changing race, where teams competed to change a doll's diaper the fastest. Vanessa sat in a chair decorated with flowers and ribbons, laughing and clapping, playing the role of the glowing mother-to-be perfectly. But I noticed something. Every time someone asked about Derek, Vanessa would change the subject. Every time someone said, "Derek must be so excited," she would nod quickly and then ask about something else. It was subtle. Most people wouldn't notice. But I noticed. Then came the moment that changed everything. One of Vanessa's friends, a tall woman with red lipstick and a loud laugh, stood up with a microphone. Okay, everyone. It's time for my favorite game. We're going to play Guess the Baby. I've collected baby photos from Vanessa and Derek, and you all have to guess which baby is which. The room erupted in excited chatter. Women pulled out their phones, ready to take pictures. Vanessa's smile was so bright it could have lit up the whole room. But I saw it again, that flicker of something in her eyes. Fear. The woman with the microphone, whose name I later learned was Jasmine, pulled out a poster board. On one side were baby pictures of Vanessa. On the other side were supposed to be baby pictures of Derek. But here's the thing. I know what my son looked like as a baby. I have albums full of pictures. I have boxes of memories. I carried that boy for 9 months and raised him for 30 years. And the baby pictures on that poster board were not my son. They were close. Same brown skin. Same round face. But the eyes were different. The nose was different. These were pictures of someone else's baby. I felt my heart start to pound. My hands gripped the sides of my chair. No one else seemed to notice. They were all laughing, guessing, having a good time. But I noticed. And when I looked up at Vanessa, she was staring directly at me. Our eyes locked across the room. And in that moment I knew. She knew that I knew. The rest of the baby shower passed in a blur. I stayed in my seat, barely hearing the laughter and conversations around me. I watched Vanessa open presents. Tiny clothes, soft blankets, a stroller that cost more than my monthly car payment. Everyone oohed and awed. Vanessa smiled and thanked everyone graciously. But she never looked at me again, not once. When it was time for cake, I excused myself and went to the bathroom. I needed a moment alone. I needed to think. I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. My face looked older than it had this morning. The lines around my eyes seemed deeper. My hands were shaking. I pulled out my phone and called Derek. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Voicemail. I sent him a text. Call me as soon as you get this. Important. Then I took a deep breath, smoothed down my dress, and went back out to the party. I would smile. I would play my role. But inside, my mind was already working, already planning what I would do next. Because if my son was about to raise another man's child, he deserved to know the truth. And I was going to find it. The party finally ended around 4 in the afternoon. Women hugged Vanessa goodbye, promising to visit once the baby was born. They complimented her dress, her hair, her glowing skin. They told her she was going to be an amazing mother. I hung back, helping to clean up, stacking paper plates and tying up trash bags. Vanessa's mother, Linda, walked past me without a word. That confirmed it. Something was definitely wrong. When most of the guests had left, Vanessa came over to me. She looked tired now. The bright smile had faded. Gloria, thank you for staying to help clean up, she said softly. You didn't have to do that. I looked at her directly. Vanessa, honey, we need to talk. Her body went rigid. About what? About those baby pictures. The color drained from her face. For a moment, I thought she might faint. She grabbed the edge of a table to steady herself. I don't know what you mean, she said, but her voice was shaking. Those weren't pictures of Derek as a baby, I said calmly. I know my son. I know what he looked like. So whose pictures were they? Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. Gloria, please, not here. Not now. Then when? When were you planning to tell my son the truth? She looked around frantically, making sure no one else could hear us. The few remaining people were on the other side of the room, packing up decorations. I can explain, she whispered. It's not what you think. Then what is it? I asked, keeping my voice low but firm. Because right now, it looks like you're pregnant with someone else's baby and letting my son believe it's his. Tears spilled down her cheeks, smudging her mascara. I love Derek, she said desperately. I love him so much. You have to believe me. Then why are you lying to him? She opened her mouth to respond, but her friend Jasmine called out from across the room. Vanessa, we need you to sign this card for the photographer. Vanessa wiped her tears quickly, forcing a smile back onto her face. She looked at me one more time, her eyes pleading. We'll talk later. Please, Gloria. Please don't say anything to Derek yet. Let me explain everything first. Then she walked away, leaving me standing there with more questions than answers. I drove home in silence. My mind was racing. I thought about calling Derek again, but what would I say? Son, I think your wife is pregnant with another man's baby because the baby pictures at the shower didn't look like you? That sounded crazy even to me. I needed proof, real proof, not just a mother's intuition and some suspicious baby photos. I pulled into my driveway and sat in the car for a long moment. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. My house looked the same as it always did, small but well-maintained. Flowers in the front yard, the porch light already on, set on a timer. Everything looked normal, but nothing felt normal anymore. Inside, I made myself a cup of tea and sat at my kitchen table. This was where I'd had so many important conversations over the years, where I'd helped my kids with their homework, where I'd cried after Marcus died, where I'd celebrated promotions and graduations and engagements. Now I was sitting here trying to figure out how to protect my son from a betrayal I wasn't even sure I could prove. I opened my laptop and did something I never thought I would do. I started researching private investigators. I found 3 in my area. I read reviews. I compared prices. I finally settled on one, a woman named Patricia Hughes who specialized in infidelity cases. Her website said she was discreet, professional, and thorough. I sent her an email explaining my situation, asking if she could help me find out the truth about my daughter-in-law's pregnancy. Then I waited. Waiting has never been my strong suit. I'm a woman of action. When Marcus got sick, I didn't wait for the doctors to tell me what to do. I researched. I asked questions. I fought for him every single day until the very end. When my kids needed something, I didn't wait for someone else to provide it. I worked double shifts. I took extra hours. I made it happen. So sitting here in my kitchen, waiting for an email response from a private investigator, feeling helpless and angry and scared, was torture. I kept checking my phone. Still no call from Derek. I tried calling him again. Voicemail. I called my daughter Keisha. "Hey, Mama," she answered, her voice bright. "How was the baby shower?" "It was fine," I lied. "How are the kids?" "They're good. Marcus Jr. lost another tooth. Shayla got an A on her math test. We're all good here. You sound tired. Are you okay?" I wanted to tell her everything, but I couldn't, not yet. Not until I knew for sure. "I'm fine, baby. Just tired. Long day." We talked for a few more minutes about nothing important. When I hung up, the house felt even quieter than before. I took a long shower, put on my pajamas, and tried to watch TV, but I couldn't focus. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Vanessa's face. That moment when our eyes met across the room. She knew. She knew that I knew. And now we were both pretending, both playing a game, both waiting to see who would break first. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the signs I should have noticed before. Like how Vanessa had been distant at Christmas, how she'd barely spoken to me at family dinner last month, how she'd avoided making eye contact whenever Derek talked about their future. I'd written it off as stress from work, maybe some marriage troubles they were working through. But now I wondered if it was guilt, if she'd been carrying this secret for months, knowing what she'd done, knowing that eventually the truth would come out. At 3 a.m, my phone buzzed. An email from Patricia Hughes. "Mrs. Bennett, I received your inquiry. I'd like to meet with you in person to discuss your case. Are you available tomorrow at 10 a.m? My office address is below. Looking forward to speaking with you. Patricia Hughes," I replied immediately, confirming the meeting. Then I finally fell asleep, exhausted from worry and anger and fear. I dreamed about Marcus. We were sitting on our old porch, the one from the house we lived in when the kids were young. He was drinking lemonade. I was snapping green beans into a bowl. "You always did know when something was wrong," he said in the dream, smiling at me with that gentle smile I missed so much. "What should I do?" I asked him. "The same thing you always do, Gloria. You protect our family. You find the truth, and then you do what's right, no matter how hard it is." I woke up with tears on my face. It was 6 a.m. I got up, made coffee, and started getting ready for my meeting with the private investigator. Patricia Hughes' office was in a small building downtown, above a coffee shop and next to a law firm. The waiting room was simple but professional. Comfortable chairs, magazines on a side table, a receptionist who smiled and offered me water. "Ms. Hughes will be with you in just a moment," she said. I sat down, my purse clutched in my lap, my heart pounding. A few minutes later, a woman emerged from an inner office. She was in her mid-40s, with short natural hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see right through me. She wore a navy blue suit and sensible heels. Mrs. Bennet? I'm Patricia Hughes. Please come in. I followed her into her office. It was neat and organized. Framed certificates on the wall. A large desk with a computer and neatly stacked files. 2 chairs facing the desk. She gestured for me to sit. Thank you for seeing me so quickly, I said. Of course. I read your email, and I have to say, I'm very sorry you're going through this. Let's talk about what exactly you need from me. I told her everything. The phone call from Derek, the baby shower, the baby pictures that didn't match, Vanessa's lies about Derek being at work, the way Vanessa's mother had avoided me, the timeline that didn't make sense. Patricia listened carefully, taking notes on a legal pad. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Mrs. Bennet, what you're describing certainly raises some red flags. But I need to be honest with you. Getting concrete proof of paternity fraud is tricky. What exactly are you hoping to achieve here? I want to know the truth, I said firmly. If that baby is my son's, then I'll apologize for doubting. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right. But if it's not his baby, he deserves to know before he signs a birth certificate and commits to raising a child that isn't his. Patricia nodded. I understand, and I agree with you. But we need to be strategic about this. We can't just ask Vanessa to take a paternity test. And legally, we can't force her to take one until after the baby is born. So what can we do? I asked, frustration creeping into my voice. We investigate. We follow her. We see if there's anyone else in the picture. We look for evidence of an affair. Phone records, social media, witnesses. If she's hiding something, we'll find it. How long will that take? Depends. Could be a week, could be a month. But I promise you, Mrs. Bennet, if there's something to find, I'll find it. I hired her on the spot. She gave me a contract to sign and explained her rates. It wasn't cheap, but I didn't care. I would use my savings. I would work extra shifts at the hospital. Whatever it took. My son's future was worth more than money. When I left her office, I felt a strange sense of relief. I wasn't helpless anymore. I was doing something. I was taking action. I drove home and finally my phone rang. It was Derek. Hey, Mama, he said, his voice tired. Sorry I missed your calls yesterday. Work has been insane. How was the baby shower? I took a deep breath. I had to play this carefully. It was lovely. Vanessa looked beautiful. She got so many nice gifts. I wish I could have been there, he said, and I heard genuine regret in his voice. But this project is killing me. I've been pulling 16-hour days. Derek, honey, can I ask you something? Sure, what's up? When was the last time you were home? I mean physically home with Vanessa? There was a pause. What do you mean? I live here, Mama. I know, baby. But with all your travel for work, when was the last time you were actually home for more than a day or two? Another pause, longer this time. I don't know. Why are you asking? Just curious. You've been traveling so much lately? Yeah, it's been rough. But it'll calm down soon, especially once the baby comes. I want to be home more. My heart ached. He sounded so sincere, so excited about this baby, so completely unaware that his whole world might be built on a lie. Derek, do you and Vanessa ever talk about taking a paternity test? The question hung in the air like smoke. What? Mama, why would you even ask that? I'm just thinking about health reasons. You know, genetic testing, making sure everything is okay with the baby. Vanessa's doctor has been doing all the standard tests. Everything's fine. Mama, what's going on? You're acting weird. I couldn't tell him. Not yet. Not without proof. Nothing, baby. I'm just being an overprotective mama. You know how I am. He laughed, but it sounded forced. Yeah, I know. Listen, I gotta get back to work. I'll call you later, okay? Okay. I love you, Derek. Love you too, Mama. After we hung up, I sat in my car in my own driveway crying. Not loud, dramatic sobs, just quiet tears rolling down my face. Because no matter what happened next, someone was going to get hurt. If Vanessa was innocent, I would have damaged our relationship forever with my suspicions. If she was guilty, Derek's heart was going to be shattered. There was no good outcome here, only different shades of pain. But I couldn't stop now. I had to see this through. For the next 2 weeks, Patricia kept me updated. She followed Vanessa. She took pictures. She documented her movements. And what she found was interesting, very interesting. Vanessa had lunch with a man 3 times in those 2 weeks. Same man each time. He was tall, athletic build, looked to be in his early 30s. They met at a quiet restaurant on the edge of town. Patricia got pictures of them sitting close together, talking intensely. In one photo, the man had his hand on Vanessa's belly. It was an intimate gesture, the kind of gesture a father might make, not the kind of gesture a friend would make. Patricia also found out who he was. His name was Cameron Mitchell. He worked at the same marketing firm as Vanessa. They'd been working together for over a year. He wasn't married. He lived alone in a condo downtown. And according to Patricia's research, he'd been seen at several events with Vanessa, even before she got pregnant. I stared at the photos Patricia had given me. Clear, undeniable photos of my daughter-in-law with another man, having intimate lunches, letting him touch her pregnant belly, smiling at him the way she used to smile at my son. My hands shook as I held the pictures. "There's more," Patricia said gently. I checked their social media. They're not friends on Facebook or Instagram, which is suspicious in itself. But I found some old photos from company events. They're always standing together. Always. In the background of group photos. At the edge of parties. They were careful, but not careful enough. "Can you prove the baby is his?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Not without a paternity test. But Mrs. Bennett, the evidence is pretty strong. The timeline matches. Your son was in Atlanta when this baby was likely conceived. Vanessa and Cameron work together every day. They clearly have some kind of relationship." I closed my eyes. This was what I'd feared, what I'd known in my gut. But seeing the proof, seeing the actual pictures, made it real in a way that was almost unbearable. "What do I do now?" I asked. Patricia leaned forward. "You have a few options. You can show these pictures to your son and let him confront Vanessa. You can confront Vanessa yourself. Or you can wait until the baby is born and demand a paternity test. If I wait until the baby is born, Derek might have already bonded with the child. He might sign the birth certificate. It'll be even harder then. That's true. But if you tell him now, you need to be prepared for his reaction. He might not believe you. He might choose to stay with Vanessa anyway. He might be angry with you for investigating his wife." She was right. Every option was terrible. But I couldn't keep this secret. I couldn't watch my son raise another man's child, pouring his love and money and time into a lie. I had to tell him. I took the envelope of photos from Patricia. "Thank you for your work. I'll take it from here." She nodded. "Mrs. Bennett, for what it's worth, you're doing the right thing. Your son deserves to know the truth." I drove home, the envelope sitting on my passenger seat like a bomb waiting to explode. I called Derek and asked him to come over for dinner. Just the two of us. I needed to talk to him about something important. He said he'd be there at 7. I spent the afternoon cooking. His favorite meal: fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, cornbread, peach cobbler for dessert. It was the meal I'd made for him every birthday when he was growing up. The meal I made when he graduated college. The meal I made when he came home from his first deployment. It was our meal, our tradition. And tonight I was going to break his heart over this meal. At 7 o'clock sharp, Derek knocked on my door. He looked tired, dark circles under his eyes. His work clothes wrinkled, but he smiled when he saw me. "Hey, Mama. Something smells amazing." We sat down to eat. I watched him pile food onto his plate. Watched him take that first bite of chicken and close his eyes in appreciation. "Nobody makes fried chicken like you, Mama," he said. "This is exactly what I needed today." We made small talk for a while. I asked about work. He told me about his project, about the deadlines and the stress and how he couldn't wait for it to be over. He asked about my job at the hospital. I told him about some of my patients, leaving out the sad stories, focusing on the recoveries and the victories. Then, when we were halfway through dinner, I knew I couldn't wait any longer. "Derek, honey, I need to talk to you about something serious." He looked up from his plate, a piece of cornbread halfway to his mouth. "Okay, what's going on?" I reached for the envelope on the chair beside me. My hands were shaking. "I need you to look at something, and I need you to keep an open mind." He put down his cornbread, his expression shifting from relaxed to concerned. "Mama, you're scaring me." "I'm scared too, baby. But you need to see this." I slid the envelope across the table. He stared at it for a moment before opening it. I watched his face as he looked through the photos, watched the confusion appear first, then recognition, then denial, then anger. "What is this?" he asked, his voice tight. "Where did you get these?" "I hired a private investigator," I said calmly. "Derek, I don't think that baby is yours." He stood up so fast his chair fell backward. "Are you serious right now? You hired someone to follow my wife? Listen to me." "No! No, Mama, you listen to me." This is completely out of line. This is my marriage. My family. His voice was getting louder. I'd never seen him this angry. Not since he was a teenager. Derek, please. Look at the photos. Look at the timeline. You were in Atlanta when... I don't care about the timeline. I don't care about these pictures. People have lunch, Mama. Co-workers have lunch. That doesn't mean they're sleeping together. Look at the way he's touching her belly, I said, pointing to one of the photos. That's not how a co-worker acts. You don't know what you're talking about, he said, but his voice wavered. Just a little. Just enough for me to know he was starting to doubt. Baby, sit down, please. Let's talk about this rationally. Rationally. He laughed, but it was a bitter sound. You want to talk rationally after you violated my privacy and my wife's privacy? After you went behind my back and hired a private investigator like we're in some kind of crime drama? I did it to protect you. I don't need protecting. I need my mother to trust me, to trust my marriage. He grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair. I can't believe you did this. I can't believe you would go this far. Derek, please don't leave. Not like this. But he was already heading for the door. I need to go home. I need to talk to my wife. And Mama, I need you to stay out of this. I mean it. Stay out of my marriage. The door slammed behind him. I sat alone in my kitchen, surrounded by the ruins of our dinner, and cried harder than I'd cried since Marcus died. I'd lost him. I'd lost my son. He would go home to Vanessa. She would deny everything. She would cry and play the victim. She would convince him that I was a crazy, jealous mother-in-law who couldn't accept that her son was growing up and starting his own family. And he would believe her, because he loved her, because he wanted to believe her. I cleaned up the kitchen in a daze. Put the leftovers in containers, washed the dishes, wiped down the table, tried to erase the evidence of the disaster this evening had become. My phone stayed silent. No call from Derek. No text. Nothing. I called Keisha. Mama, it's almost midnight. What's wrong? I told her everything. The suspicions. The investigation. The photos. The fight with Derek. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, there was a long silence. Mama, she said finally, do you really think Vanessa would do that to Derek? I saw the photos, baby. I saw them with my own eyes. But what if you're wrong? What if there's an innocent explanation? Then why would she lie about those baby pictures at the shower? Why would she avoid looking at me? Why would her mother act so strange? Keisha sighed. I don't know. But Mama, if you're right, this is going to destroy Derek. And if you're wrong, you might have just ruined your relationship with him and Vanessa forever. I know, I whispered. I know, but I couldn't keep quiet. I couldn't let him raise another man's child without knowing the truth. I understand. I do. But right now, all you can do is wait. Let Derek process this. Let him talk to Vanessa, and pray that whatever happens, your family can survive it. We talked for a little while longer. She told me she loved me. She told me to get some sleep. She told me everything would work out somehow. I wanted to believe her. Days passed with no word from Derek. I called. I texted. Nothing. It was like I'd ceased to exist. I went to work, smiled at patients, did my job. But inside I was dying a little more each day. At night, I lay awake, replaying the conversation in my head. Could I have done it differently? Could I have been gentler? Should I have waited? On the 5th day of silence, Keisha called me. Mama, I talked to Derek. My heart jumped. What did he say? He's angry. Really angry. He says Vanessa denied everything. She said Cameron is just a friend from work. She said you're trying to sabotage their marriage because you can't let go of him. Did he believe her? I don't know. He sounds confused. He wants to believe her, but I can tell he has doubts now. The seed is planted, Mama. It wasn't much, but it was something. At least he was thinking about it. At least the doubt was there. A week after our fight, I received a text from Vanessa. We need to talk. Can you meet me at the coffee shop on Main Street tomorrow at 2 p.m.? My hands shook as I typed my response. I'll be there. The coffee shop was busy when I arrived. Students on laptops, couples sharing pastries, the smell of espresso and cinnamon in the air. I ordered a tea and found a table in the corner. Vanessa arrived exactly at 2. She looked terrible, dark circles under her eyes, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, no makeup. Her belly seemed bigger than it had been at the shower. She sat down across from me without ordering anything. Thank you for meeting me, she said, her voice barely audible. I didn't think you would come. What do you want, Vanessa? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. She looked down at her hands. They were trembling. I need to tell you the truth. My heart started pounding. I'm listening. She took a deep breath. You're right. The baby isn't Derek's. The words hung in the air between us. Even though I'd suspected it, even though I'd seen the evidence, hearing her say it out loud still felt like a punch to the gut. How long have you been seeing Cameron? I asked. It started about a year ago. We were working late on a big project. Derek was traveling so much. I felt lonely. Cameron was there. He listened to me. He made me feel important. She wiped tears from her eyes. It was just supposed to be one night. One mistake, but then it kept happening. And then I found out I was pregnant. Did you know it wasn't Derek's? She nodded miserably. I knew. The timing was all wrong, but I couldn't tell Derek. He'd been so excited about starting a family. I thought maybe I could just pretend. Maybe once the baby was born, Derek would love it so much that it wouldn't matter. It would matter, Vanessa. It would matter a lot. I know, she sobbed. I know that now. But I was scared. I didn't want to lose my marriage. I didn't want to lose the life we'd built together. And what about Cameron? Does he know? She nodded again. He knows. He wants to be part of the baby's life. He's been pressuring me to tell Derek the truth. So why haven't you? Because I'm a coward, she said, her voice breaking. Because every time I try to tell him, I think about how it will destroy him.
How he'll never forgive me.
How I'll lose everything. I looked at this woman my son had married. This woman he'd loved and trusted. This woman who had betrayed him in the worst possible way. Part of me wanted to rage at her, to tell her exactly what I thought of her. But another part of me saw a scared young woman who'd made terrible choices and now had to face the consequences. You have to tell him, Vanessa, today. I know. And you have to tell him before that baby is born. He deserves to know the truth before he bonds with a child that isn't his. Will you be there when I tell him? She asked, her eyes pleading. I don't know if I can do it alone. No, I said firmly. This is between you and Derek. You made this mess. You have to own it. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I understand. Gloria, I'm so sorry. I know you'll never forgive me, but I need you to know that I do love your son. I've always loved him. If you loved him, you wouldn't have done this, I said coldly. Love doesn't cheat. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't let someone believe they're going to be a father when they're not. She flinched like I'd slapped her. You're right. I know you're right. You need to leave now, I said. You need to go home and tell my son the truth. And Vanessa, if you don't tell him by tonight, I will. She stood up, one hand on her belly, the other gripping the edge of the table for support. I'll tell him. I promise, tonight. I watched her walk out of the coffee shop, her shoulders hunched, her steps heavy. Part of me almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I went home and waited. 7 o'clock came and went. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, no word from Derek. At 10:30, my phone finally rang. It was him. Mama! His voice was shattered, broken. I'd never heard him sound like this. Not even when Marcus died. Derek, baby, where are you? I'm at a hotel. I can't go back there. I can't look at her. He was crying. My strong, proud son was sobbing on the phone. She told you? She told me everything. You were right. You were right about all of it. The baby isn't mine. She's been sleeping with her coworker for a year. A whole year, Mama. While I was working my ass off to provide for our future, she was... His voice broke. I'm coming to get you, I said, already grabbing my keys. Tell me which hotel. 20 minutes later, I pulled into the parking lot of a Holiday Inn off the interstate. Derek was sitting in his car, head in his hands. I knocked on his window and he looked up. His eyes were red and swollen. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in a single night. I opened the door and he fell into my arms. Right there in the parking lot, my 30-year-old son cried like a child. I held him and stroked his head and told him it would be okay, even though I didn't know if it would be. How could she do this to me? He kept asking. How could she look me in the eye every day and lie? I don't know, baby. I don't know. We went to my house. I made him tea and sat with him at the kitchen table while he talked. He told me everything Vanessa had confessed, how the affair had started, how she'd tried to end it but kept going back, how she'd known from the beginning that the baby wasn't his, but hoped she could pass it off as his anyway. How Cameron wanted to be in the baby's life and had been threatening to tell Derek himself if Vanessa didn't. She said she was going to tell me after the baby was born, Derek said bitterly. She was going to let me bond with this child, let me fall in love with it, and then maybe tell me the truth. Or maybe she would have just kept lying forever. I don't even know anymore. What do you want to do? I asked gently. He looked at me with those heartbroken eyes. I don't know, Mama. I loved her. I really loved her. We were building a life together. We were supposed to grow old together. I know, baby. And now what? I file for divorce? I walk away from everything we built? You do whatever you need to do to heal, whatever you need to do to move forward. He stayed at my house that night, slept in his old bedroom with the football trophies still on the shelf and the posters from his teenage years still on the walls. I heard him crying through the walls. It was the worst sound I'd ever heard. The next morning, he called a divorce lawyer. Then he called his boss and took a leave of absence from work. He needed time to process, time to figure out what his life looked like now. Vanessa called him constantly, texted him dozens of times, begged him to come home so they could talk. But he ignored her. He couldn't look at her, couldn't stand to be near her. 3 days later, Vanessa showed up at my house. I opened the door to find her standing on my porch, tears streaming down her face. Is Derek here? She asked. You need to leave, I said firmly. Please, I just need to talk to him. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. He doesn't want to see you. Gloria, please. I'm losing my mind. I know I messed up. I know I destroyed everything. But I need him to know how sorry I am. Sorry doesn't fix this, Vanessa. I know it doesn't, but I have to try. I can't just let my marriage end without fighting for it. You should have thought about that before you slept with someone else, I said coldly. You should have thought about that before you lied to my son for months. You should have thought about that before you were willing to let him raise another man's child. She crumpled onto my porch steps, sobbing. I know. I hate myself. I hate what I've done. But I love him. I still love him. Derek appeared behind me. It's okay, Mama. I'll talk to her. Are you sure? He nodded. I need to do this. I went inside but stayed close enough to hear. Derek sat down on the porch steps, keeping distance between himself and Vanessa. Say what you need to say, he told her. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I never meant for any of this to happen. But it did happen. You made choices. Every single day you chose to lie to me. I was scared. I was confused. I didn't know what to do. You could have told me the truth. You could have given me the choice. I know. You're right. I should have told you from the beginning. But I was selfish. I wanted to keep my life. I wanted to keep you. You can't keep something you threw away, Vanessa. There was a long silence. Then Vanessa asked, Is there any chance you could forgive me? Any chance we could try to work through this? Derek took a deep breath. I don't know. Right now, I can't even look at you without feeling sick. You didn't just cheat on me. You were willing to let me raise another man's child. You were willing to let me love and support and care for a baby that wasn't mine. That's not just betrayal. That's something I don't even have a word for. What about the baby? Vanessa asked quietly. What do you mean? Do you want to be involved? I know she's not biologically yours, but you were excited about being a father. You were already planning. Stop, Derek said harshly. Don't do that. Don't try to manipulate me into staying involved by making me feel guilty. I'm not trying to manipulate you. I just thought, that baby has a father. Cameron, let him step up. Let him be the father. That's not my responsibility. Vanessa started crying harder. I've ruined everything. I've ruined our whole future. Yeah, Derek said quietly. You have. She left shortly after that. Derek came back inside, looking drained. I'm proud of you, I told him. For what? For standing your ground. For not letting her guilt you into staying. He sat down heavily on the couch. Mama, can I ask you something? Anything, baby. How did you know? How did you figure it out when I was completely blind? I sat down next to him, a mother's intuition. And years of experience reading people. Plus, I know you. I know your baby pictures. I know when something doesn't add up. I should have listened to you from the beginning. You were in love. Love makes us blind sometimes. Over the next few weeks, Derek started the divorce process. It was messy. Vanessa fought it at first, begging for another chance, but eventually she accepted it was over. She moved in with her mother. Cameron apparently wanted to be involved with the baby, which made things even more complicated. There were lawyers and meetings and paperwork. It was exhausting. But slowly, very slowly, Derek started to heal. He went to therapy. He reconnected with old friends. He started going to the gym again. He moved back into his own apartment, a small place closer to my house. One evening, about 2 months after everything fell apart, he came over for dinner. I made his favorite meal again. This time we gotta finish it. You know what the worst part is? He said, pushing mac and cheese around his plate. What, baby? I still miss her sometimes. Even after everything she did, there are moments when I forget. When I think about calling her to tell her about my day, or when I see something funny and want to send her a picture, and then I remember what she did, and it hurts all over again. That's normal. You can't just turn off years of love. I thought I knew her, Mama. I thought we had something real. You did have something real. She just destroyed it with her choices. He looked at me with those eyes that reminded me so much of his father. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for investigating even when I got angry. If you hadn't done that, I might be raising Cameron's baby right now, completely clueless. I would do anything to protect you. All of you. That's what mothers do. We talked for hours that night, about his future, about his healing, about what he wanted his life to look like now. I want to be okay again, he said. I want to wake up and not immediately think about her. I want to trust people again. I want to believe in love again. You will, baby. It takes time, but you will. 3 months later, Vanessa had the baby, a girl, 7 pounds, 3 ounces. I heard about it through Keisha, who heard about it through the neighborhood gossip chain. Derek didn't go to the hospital. He'd made it clear he wanted no part of that child's life. Cameron was there, apparently, playing the role of proud father. Linda posted pictures on Facebook. A tiny brown baby with a head full of dark curls. She looked nothing like Derek, but she looked exactly like Cameron. I wondered if Vanessa looked at her daughter and felt regret. If she thought about the life she could have had with Derek, the family she'd destroyed, or if she was too focused on her new reality to think about what she'd lost. Derek's divorce was finalized 4 months after the baby was born. He sent me a text that just said, "It's done." I called him immediately. "How are you feeling?" "Relieved," he said. "Sad, angry, free, all of it at once." "That's okay. You're allowed to feel all of those things." "I know. My therapist keeps telling me that. Are you going to be okay?" There was a pause. Then he said, "Yeah, Mama, I think I am, eventually." 6 months after the divorce, Derek started dating again. Nothing serious at first, just coffee dates and casual dinners, testing the waters, learning to trust again. I watched him slowly come back to life. The light returned to his eyes. The smile became genuine again. He started making plans for the future. One Sunday afternoon, he brought a woman to meet me. Her name was Angela. She was a teacher at a local elementary school. She had a warm smile and kind eyes, and she looked at my son like he was something precious. We had dinner together. I made my usual spread. Angela complimented everything and asked me for recipes. She talked about her students and her family and her dreams, and I watched Derek watch her, and I saw something I hadn't seen in a long time. Hope. After she left, Derek stayed behind to help me clean up. "What do you think?" he asked nervously. "I think she's lovely. She seems genuine." "She is. She's so different from Vanessa. She's honest. She's kind. She doesn't play games. I'm happy for you, baby." He hugged me. "Thank you, Mama, for everything. For protecting me even when I didn't want to be protected. For not saying I told you so even though you could have. For just being there." "That's what family does," I said, hugging him back. "We protect each other. Always." A year after the divorce, Derek and Angela got engaged. She was everything Vanessa wasn't. Honest, loyal, real. The wedding was small and intimate. Just close family and friends. My daughter Keisha was there with her kids. My son Marcus came in from Houston. We all celebrated Derek's new beginning. During the reception, Derek gave a speech. He thanked everyone for coming. He talked about how much Angela meant to him, how she'd helped him believe in love again. Then he looked at me. "I also want to thank my mama," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "for having the courage to tell me a truth I didn't want to hear, for loving me enough to risk our relationship to protect me. Mama, you saved me from making the biggest mistake of my life. I'll never forget that." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Later, as I watched Derek and Angela dance their first dance as husband and wife, I thought about that day at the baby shower. The day I realized something was wrong. The day I decided to act instead of ignore my instincts. It had been the hardest thing I'd ever done. Harder than raising 3 kids alone after Marcus died. Harder than working double shifts to keep food on the table. Harder than anything, but it had been worth it. Because my son was happy now. He was free. He was starting fresh with a woman who loved him and respected him and would never betray him. Keisha came and stood next to me. "You did good, Mama," she said softly. "He's going to be okay now." "I know," I said, wiping tears from my eyes. "I know he is." Sometimes love means telling uncomfortable truths. Sometimes it means investigating when everyone thinks you're crazy. Sometimes it means standing alone and being called paranoid and overprotective and intrusive. But when you're a mother, you do what needs to be done. You protect your children, even when they're grown, even when they don't want your protection, even when it costs you, because that's what real love looks like. Not blind trust, not naive acceptance, but fierce, protective, uncompromising love that refuses to let the people you care about be destroyed by lies. I looked at my son, dancing with his new wife, his face lit up with genuine joy. And I knew I would do it all again, every uncomfortable moment, every painful conversation, every risk, because he was worth it. My family was worth it. And in the end, the truth had set us all free. 2 years later, Angela gave birth to a baby boy. They named him Marcus, after Derek's father, after my late husband. When I held that baby for the first time, looked into his eyes and saw Derek looking back at me, saw the Bennett family features stamped clearly on his tiny face, I cried tears of joy. This was my real grandson. This was the continuation of our family line. This was the blessing that came after the storm. Derek watched me hold his son with tears in his own eyes. "He's really mine, Mama, no doubts. No questions. Just mine. He's beautiful, baby. Perfect." Angela stood beside us, glowing with the pride of new motherhood. "I'm so glad he has you as his grandmother, Gloria. He's lucky." "I'm the lucky one," I said, rocking little Marcus gently. "I'm so lucky to have this family." Later that night, after everyone had gone home and I was alone in my house, I looked at the pictures from the hospital on my phone. Derek holding his son for the first time. Angela tired but radiant. 3 generations of Bennetts together. My late husband Marcus would have been so proud. I thought about Vanessa sometimes. Wondered how she was doing. Wondered if her daughter was happy and healthy. Wondered if she'd learned anything from what happened. But mostly, I didn't think about her at all. She was part of the past. A painful chapter that had closed. The future was here now, in the form of a tiny baby boy with his father's eyes and his grandfather's name. And as I turned off the lights and headed to bed, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete peace. My family was whole. My son was happy. The lies had been exposed and dealt with. The truth had prevailed. I'd done my job as a mother. I'd protected my child when he needed it most. And now, I got to watch him build the life he'd always deserved. With a woman who truly loved him. With a son who was truly his. With a future built on honesty and trust and real love. That night, I dreamed of Marcus again. We were sitting on that same old porch, but this time we weren't alone. Our children were there. Our grandchildren were there. All of us together, laughing and talking and enjoying the simple pleasure of family. "You did good, Gloria," Marcus said in the dream, smiling at me with pride. "You did real good." I woke up with a smile on my face. The house was quiet. The sun was rising. A new day was beginning. And for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see what it would bring. Did you like my story? Which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.